Put paste and
D-Lake creates.
What if you only need 1,000 clients or customers to make your business thrive? TLDR, it's a simple principle by Kevin Kelly, which is 1,000 real fans buy $100 worth of stuff in that year, which then equals $100,000. This puts the focus on 1,000 quality people instead of a random 1 million quantity people. But how is this applicable to your marketing and content creation journey for your business? Find out the answer to that and how you can unlock your ideal audience with these targeted content marketing strategies on this episode of Digital Ninjas and D-Lake Media.
Hey, I'm Darren Lake, and welcome to this podcast series collaboration between Digital Ninjas, D-Lake Creative, and Podpaste. We're on a mission to supercharge your brand, company, or organization and help you change the world through digital strategy, training, and insights. Each episode, we answer questions and talk about one specific idea to help you market and run your business better. And we do that by making them easy to digest, short, and concise, because we've all got a business to run.
What is this series about?
And it's actually a panel discussion that I ended up being a part of that was really awesome. And I was joined by Natalie Rafa, who is the founder and CEO of SplashUp, which is an e-commerce software company. Also Jensen Gleer, who is a growth hacker extraordinaire, absolute wizard. And Brendan Hill, who's another content creation wizard. And he also is a venture capitalist investor. And then obviously myself, I was a part of it. Darren Lake, D-Lake Creates. I do a running fitness brand. So what will you learn in this episode? How to find your 1,000 true fans, AKA dream customers, putting yourself in those dream customers' shoes, getting outside and actually talking to real humans, why good products and services never go out of style, and much more. Let's get into it.
So to your point there, Jensen, finding those 1,000 true fans, you mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, fantastic article by Kevin Kelly about 15 years ago. We'll put the link in the show notes to the article. It's fantastic. But I wanted to talk more about, how do you find those 1,000 first fans? I know you've touched on it briefly. Natalie, I know you've worked on something similar, giving you guys a bit more context about Natalie. She's worked with over 500 early stage businesses. One in particular that I have in mind called Perla.com. Shout out to Kurt, our mutual friend, Kurt Walkham. But what they did, they sort of found those 1,000 true fans, and then they used their community as a moat for their business as well. Yeah, Finfluencers. They have a fintech product, Perla.com. We'll put in the show notes. Check it out. Fantastic community. And I know at Together AI, you've built a fantastic community of families as well. So maybe if you guys could tell us about, even a few stories from the community, how it's strengthened those two products and really created that moat around the business.
Yeah, so finding your first 1,000 true fans, I'd say definitely, like going back to what I've said previously, of put yourself in their shoes, think about what platforms that they are more likely to engage with and start testing on said platforms. If we're looking at like developer communities, we'd be looking at Slack, Discord, Reddit, or 4chan. Know what I mean? If we're talking about like parents, initially, depending on the age group, you might be looking at Facebook groups. You might be looking at Instagram. You might want to promote more on Reels. It really depends on sort of where you assume your target market is, and generate content that you think would be appealing to them to start a conversation. Invite them to a closed group. Create a Substack where you're creating content about the topics that they're interested in. Like really, it's just, honey for the flies.
And adding to that, it's also like, finding out who do they go to for knowledge, and then approaching these people and ask them to potentially collaborate or create content, or maybe host them or have them on a show or like a podcast like you're doing, because they would allow that's target market to basically, attract them to your platform because it's a source of credibility. Now, in finance, it's definitely a different landscape because that legally got banned, and not everyone can just give in Australia financial advice, right? But it's definitely a thing that we have evolved as humans to really to look for. So the community aspect is definitely there and growing, and it's used even with startups. Like they create their own communities to make sure that first they constantly engaging with their user base. They know what's happening. They've got a fan base that's helping them propagate that usage outside of that community. And it's such a really strong, incredible place to it's great to create. Like look at Coda. If you're familiar with Coda, it's sort of like Notion. And if you go on their community, it's like raging fans who are so passionate, like sort of like a nation, like nationalism of Coda. And they are like big fans, but to build that, obviously it took them a while. And so, adding to that point, go where they are. If they're like, parents, they might be on Facebook groups talking about, how to share tips. It could be like, working with maybe potentially doctors or, whatever it is. Maybe it's a bit of an outreach, but like it's really about finding out like where they are and talking their language. And also, for example, if you go on Reddit, it's not just about like, I'm just going to go on Reddit, create an account and post. Like I actually been there, got banned, had to create another account. It's really about like, being part of that Reddit community and not sort of selling yourself without selling yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like adding value to the community, but also when growing said community, it's about enabling those champions within those communities. So whether you're paying them or whether you're like helping them out in some way or like some sort of incentive program, maybe they love the adoration and, the fact that they're seen as a knowledge leader or a thought leader in that community. Whatever the approach is, start the relationship. If you see someone that's in your community that's posting pretty consistently, reach out to them and go, we've got additional content. We'd love for you to help out. Or do you have any advice on how we can improve our content? It's about those conversations, and they take time, but they're worthwhile because that bridges those strong networks. And
so like with that, talking to them is such an important thing because I get startups that often come to me and they're like, Nat, my conversion rate is really low. How do I improve that? How do I grow my wait list? And, they already have customers. And I ask them, like, are you talking to people who have transacted with you? Did you reach out to them? Did you get their opinion? And they say no. And so, like, when they've had, like, a few customers who are like, tell me why, like, what makes you want to, purchase this product again? Oh, it's a seasonal product. I just didn't really think much about it. Or the website, I found it really difficult to navigate. They had things like even if you don't crack it, you will find a piece of gold that would help you, embellish or improve your strategy altogether. So, yeah.
I mean, another fantastic Paul Graham essay. Shout out to Paul Graham. I know he's an avid listener of the podcast. One of his other great essays is, you need to get out of the building and talk to customers, as you guys have just been saying. But a lot of business owners sometimes struggle, like, how do I actually do it? Like, how do you guys actually, get outside the building and go and talk to these business owners? What are some of the methods that people can use?
Your network. Guaranteed, any person in your network will know someone that knows someone. If you start small, there is a way. If you go to where events are, where they hang out, there is a way. If you befriend them, if you act like them, if you put yourself in their shoes, like Jensen said, you will figure out one or two people, and from there you can actually ask them, like, who can you think of that is like you, that may need this. And it's really about doing things that don't scale. You have to get out of the building though. Like, it's just imperative. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck inside and try to figure things out. But it's just a long way to death, I think.
Well, I think also it depends at what stage your company's at, for sure. If you're early stage, bootstrapping, sure, happy days, get out in front of them. If you're at sort of scale up, look at the technologies that'll give you feedback for users. CRO, conversion rate optimization, heat mapping, tools such as FullStory, even sort of like, your actual platform analytics, such as Mixpanel, Amplitude as such, or other ones like UXCam webcam and smart look. So if you have an application, you want to do live recordings of your actual users, how they're engaging with your UX. But any opportunity to get like some user feedback, if it's in application, you want to use OneSignal or Apptentive of the such, because you really want to get the immediate feedback whenever a user has a challenge, whether they're rage clicking or, you don't want to get them when they're putting reviews, for your product or service saying, couldn't sign on, or like, I got stuck at this specific screen, 1 star, you know what I mean? So really try and get them in before they go public, or if they do go public, bring them in-house in some manner, jump on a call, email them, hit them up on social, be like, you had a shit experience, really sorry. What can we do to improve?
I think one thing that I've found, I am surprisingly an introvert. I know I come off as extroverted to some people, but I won't go into details of that. But I get extroverted when I'm around people that I like, that they can drain, but they drain my energy. So I guess it's the makeup of me is that even loved ones that I like being around, they drain my energy. So I really like social media for those kind of micro interactions. And my brand is international. And yes, I do meet people out running, and it's pretty cool when they're like, do you like crates? And I'm like, who are you? And they're like, oh, I follow you on Instagram, or, I listen to your podcast. I'm like, holy shit, it's working. But then I'm like, cool, I couldn't handle that 20 times a day. That would be too much. I don't want to be famous. I think being famous is terrible. But with the internet, I can go, okay, there's a lot of messages today. I'll hit them up tomorrow. And I use the internet as, I guess, going outside, getting outside the office. That's my metaphorical way. But the one point, I guess, that I've found is give value just for value's sake, like you would help a friend or family member out. And then it will come back to you, but you shouldn't ever expect anything to come back. And I know we're all in business and it's all transactional, but like, don't think of the relationship as transactional. I know it's hard. It's easier said than done, but it's like, it will all, if you believe in the universe and all the woo-woo stuff, like it will come back to you. And if it's a question and you can easily answer it in 5 seconds, boom, you do that 10, 20 times, 1 or 2 people are going to be like, yo, you're dope, blah, 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 and they'll pass you on to X, Y, Z. And the other 18 people will get it and then forget about it, whatever. But, you're out there, you're communicating with people, even in the direct messages. So, yeah, that's, again, do it because you want to help people and don't expect something, I think.
Oh, 100%. Because, like, the reality is business is transactional, of course, but what most people fail to realize or to take into consideration is the brand awareness. People often just think, oh, you know what, I get my brand out there, I'll get someone else to plug it, but it's also your brand reputation. And your brand reputation is just as important as anything else. It's like, it's peer reviewed. So someone's going to be, do you really like that? Or like, this shit, the CEO's crap, or like, I don't like what they're doing ethically. Stuff it. I'm not going to touch that brand. There's going to be 100,000 people to replace you, or 100,000 companies to replace you. So it is about adding that value for value's sake, because you're creating that relationship. It's like, it's the old sales adage, you sell to someone like your best friend. So you treat them like the friend, and then they'll stick with you through the thick and thin.
It's a great point. Like, one thing that I think Bezos said was, like, things will always evolve and change. Like, you get new tools and new e-commerce experiences, but the one thing that will never change is a good product. Like, if you just have that, you already, like, you've got a big advantage. So, like, it's not just about, like, listening to the value, but also implementing it with a good product. So just wanted to add that.
And actually, like, your product's going to be shit for a while. Yeah. Like, it's going to be terrible. And if you're listening to your user and getting that feedback and making the changes, they're going to see that and be like, oh, this brand, this person, this product is trustable, because, like, trustworthy, because they're actually doing what I'm asking.
All right, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. You know the drill. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, depending on wherever app you're on, whether you're listening to this as a podcast or you're watching it on YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you get this. It really helps us get the word out. And if you're feeling this and you've gotten some value, please make sure you share this with someone that you know. And we'll see you on the next episode.